This week we've got Doom, The Dark Ages, and the rest of the Xbox Direct Showcase, including some ninja on ninja action. Spider-Man 2 launches on PC right after we finish recording this podcast. Endless Legend 2 might be exactly what you need while you wait for Civilization 7. And speaking of Roman numerals, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth just launched on PC this week. You don't have to cast Blizzard to freeze Avalanche in their tracks. Then we talk about Murky Divers and check our voicemails, which raises a question: what does AI mean for gaming?
Hi, I'm Nick, and although Mario is canonically 45, he's had 7 careers, which tells me he's actually a millennial.
Hi, I'm Josh, and if ICE supports Mario, does he go back to Italy or Japan?
And I'm Andy. This is Video Game Tango. Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
We've got a dense podcast. I say that before it's recorded, so I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's not.
Yeah. But we do have a voicemail. We're going to be checking voicemail at the end of the podcast. Stick around for that.
At the end?
Yeah.
Dang it.
So watch or listen.
All right. I'll stay till the end, I guess. You probably should, too.
Appreciate it.
Probably.
Well, let's start with you, Nick.
All right. Well, coming quick off the heels of yesterday, because it's today, that means it's closer, is Doom, The Dark Ages. Final release date, May 15th. That is right around the corner. I'm very excited. I did like the 2016 and the remake, like the direction they went with it. I'm glad to see them continuing the format, if even just to refine or expand on the knowledge they've gained from the other 2 games they've made, right? To come off of Doom 2 and Doom 3 to what 2016 was a big jump. Little article here on Rock, Paper, Shotgun talking about some key highlights. Stuff like the shield isn't just used for combat, but also traversal, allowing you to rocket across arenas like a pinball.
Like Captain America.
Yeah. But you're attached to the shield.
Yeah, that's even better.
Faltering is a new kind of key mechanic component of the game, tied into how they are redoing glory kills. So faltering is essentially a stage you can put enemies in to make them weak. And the glory kills are now unsynced. So no longer will you have the problem where you stagger 5 enemies and then only have time to glory kill one of them before the other 2 come out of the stage, allowing you to do really cool combos, chaining stuff together, more fluid executions. They've added in a whole pool of new animations the game will choose from. The gameplay is much more stand and fight, a bigger, heavier Slayer, Iron Tank, quote unquote. Frank Miller's version of a Doom Slayer, more Space Marine-esque. They're redoing the control scheme to be more ergonomic. No more flamethrower. You'll regain ammo through melee, which fits into the whole idea of this being like a dark medieval themed game. Less codex story things that you have to find to get the lore. It's just kind of baked into the game now. It is not an open world game, but the levels are large and mazy, folding back in on themselves, so a little Metroidvania-like, and strictly campaign. So it sounds like no intention for multiplayer, which sucks for those that enjoyed the multiplayer, but it does mean more dev time focused on the single-player experience. So that's just exciting, and knowing it's just a few months away, even more exciting. Hopefully my PC will be able to run it. Might have to turn everything down. But yeah, I love the Doom games. I grew up on them. They're a hoot.
As much as I love Doom as a franchise, and I've talked about this previously, and I talked about it a few minutes ago with chat, is 2016 didn't grab me, so I didn't play Doom Eternal because I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the franchise. So it's one of those games that I do intend on going back to revisiting, because Doom 2016 isn't that long of a game. And then it sounds like Doom Eternal was worth it, and it sounds like The Dark Ages may be extra worth it. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm always excited for a new Doom game because they do seem like they're quality, right?
Yeah.
Especially coming from Bethesda, who is not necessarily known for their quality.
Anymore, yeah.
I did want to mention on the heels of Doom the Dark Ages that the Xbox Direct was the day after last week's podcast.
Of course it was.
I did want, yeah, of course. That's usually how it happens. So I did want to mention really quick that along with that, they showed off more of South of Midnight. They showed more of Claire Obscure Expedition 33, a turn-based RPG that looks great. I mean, honestly, it doesn't look like it's going to be like a massive game changer, but everything that I'm watching looks tight and fun. Okay. So, I mean, that's cool. It's also, rated mature, violence, blood and gore, suggestive themes. So that's fun. But
like you said earlier,
terrible name.
They pulled the name out of a flea market.
Yeah, really. At the end of the day, it's like they used a random name generator and then a random subtitle generator. So I don't know how well that's going to sell based on name alone. Like, I see that and I'm thinking extra weeby.
Thinking point and click flash game mystery.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
No,
What
I
was
get
it called
that
again?
too.
Claire Obscure.
Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
Gee, that's way too fucking long of a name.
Yeah, I mean, you could call it Claire Obscure because I guess that's what it is. 'Cause
Yeah,
the rest is
yeah.
the subtitle, right?
Exactly.
But I haven't played Expedition 1 through 32, so why would
Yeah.
I jump into this?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, it just doesn't. It just doesn't
Andy
do it
wants
for
the
me.
deep lore.
That's right. That's why I didn't play Doom Eternal. So great. We had talked previously about South of Midnight. Really
that's
cool looking
the,
game.
Creole, Cajun, Louisiana fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big crocodile.
Super low frames per second, so it almost looks like stop motion.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It had a really cool look. I can remember the visuals of the game.
Yeah, it had that
looked-
really
yeah.
big fish.
Yeah.
It looked pretty neat. So we got a little bit more of that. This time it was the story trailer, so it wasn't just like a cinematic trailer. It was a little bit more to it. But on top of that, they threw out Ninja Gaiden 4, which, long beloved
Yeah,
franchise.
big deal.
Yeah, especially after like the Xbox relaunched Ninja Gaiden,
I mean, that's
the original
long
Xbox
franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back all the way to the it's pre-NES. Like,
I didn't
it's
say I had a Ninja Gaiden game on the original Nintendo.
Yeah.
So
totally. So it's Team Ninja again. They announced the return of the beloved franchise. We were introduced in the trailer to Yakumo, a new protagonist whose objective lies at the heart of a devastated Tokyo. On his mission, Yakumo will not only encounter fiends and demons, but also the legendary master ninja himself, Ryu Hayabusa.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, he is back, but he
Okay.
is not going to be the main playable character. My only worry about that is we're gonna get like a Metal Gear Solid 2, where everybody complains that you're not playing Solid Snake right throughout the entire campaign. But because he's a pretty recognizable character.
Yeah.
Yakumo will introduce players to a stylish new take on ninja action with Bloodbind Ninjutsu. So he's got like a bunch of like blood-related ninjutsu moves, which look really cool. We're showing the trailer right now. You'll see a little bit of that as I go on. But yeah, it stylized, it's got Ninja Gaiden feel for sure, like OG Xbox. But with the advances that we've had in technology since the franchise was rebooted, this game looks incredible. Like, I mean, it looks fast like Ghostwire Tokyo and Spider-Man mixed with Team Ninja's fucking crazy good combo action style. So this caught me off guard. I was not expecting Ninja Gaiden to come back because I haven't heard
it's been a
anything
long
Ninja Gaiden
time.
for a long time. So alongside legacy techniques like the Flying Swallow and Izuna Drop, Ryu will also return as a playable character with a revamped arsenal that stays true to his signature brutality and precision. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. Like, you get to play Raiden and you get to play Solid Snake, right? So that's cool. And I love Team Ninja. They actually made this is going to sound blasphemous. They made my favorite Devil May Cry. DMC Devil May Cry is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the Devil May Cry universe for most people, but I thought it was honestly their best one. So I am looking forward to this. It might justify my ownership of a PC that can handle it. So,
Yeah.
because I don't do that very often. We will talk about something that's relatively trying to my system in a little bit. But until then, Josh, you got something for us?
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and now it's new to PC. It came out in 2023, but it's coming to us PC users tomorrow. So if you're listening to this, you could have already had it yesterday. Time's a weird soup. I'm of course talking about Spider-Man 2. Yes,
Friendly neighborhood port.
I know. The friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is swinging onto our PCs with a whole lot of goodies, guys. I mean, you're going to be able to do a 21:9 aspect ratio. I'm not sure what that is.
I've never heard
but
of
it's
the number
boosted.
9 before.
It's happy. You can do a 32:9 aspect ratio, or if you have 3 monitors, a 48:9. Those are, again, I'm not quite sure what they are, but you have options. We already know Spider-Man 2. We've seen the game. It was excellent on PlayStation 5. It's just being ported over. That's the exciting news. Some other exciting news is that you don't have to have a PlayStation account to play it.
Very nice.
It's very nice. You get extras for having it, and that's the way that something like that really should be done. But what's just the most excellent about this game, and something that I talk about pretty specifically about games, is its optimization. It has excellent fucking optimization.
Good to hear.
If you can be all the way down on a GTX 1650 and play Spider-Man 2, all the way down there, versus if you want the ultimate high-end ray tracing, you're going to need that RTX 4090. So, like, a broad
range of hardware.
A broad range of hardware that this is going to be played on. So, I'm just, if they can do it for Spider-Man 2, then other games can do it. So I just, optimization is key in this. Now, and of course, the biggest and bestest news is that it goes on sale tomorrow. Tomorrow, right? Like you could go and buy this as soon as you're done listening right now, because you're listening to this presumably on Friday.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, you better be.
So I do want to talk more about optimization. Like the things I'm talking about are all linked to yours a little bit. So
I feel you said you had a couple some deeper.
I have some thoughts, and I'll share them in a minute. Until then, Nick, you've got another story for us.
I do. 4X players are eating good this year, or at least they most likely are going to be. Civ 7 had their announcement a ways back. The early playtester embargo lifted last week, so all the 4X players on YouTube have been playing and showing off the first age, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing. But it is still Civ. If you know Civ, you know Civ. Mm-hmm. They changed some things, and that's got a ways to go. What I'm really excited about is actually probably my second most favorite 4X game of these natures, which is Endless Legend 2 by Amplitude Studios, who I have a very interesting relationship with. These are the people that brought you Humankind, which you're most likely familiar with, but all of the Endless games. The Endless games vary in form factor from 4X to roguelike, but they take place in a shared universe. So same races and species and relics and artifacts, whether it's far fast future sci-fi or fantasy. And I really like that about these Endless games. Excuse me. But Endless Legend, this came out almost, I think, about 10 years ago. And what it did that really struck a chord with the people who played it was that it was highly asymmetrical. Unlike in Civ, where playing an economic character gives you +1 gold on your tiles, you have entire races to pick from in Endless Legend that don't eat food at all, or don't follow normal rules for building cities. Like they might have one massive one that floats around or something. So that highly asymmetric gameplay combined with a really rich, deep lore made for a game that traditionally most people don't think of as having much of a narrative or plot or story, to have that. The way they handle minor races in this game is very unique and interesting. And it's really neat seeing them after 10 years going back to their roots and making a second one. I read it through a interview on PC Gamer here with PC Gamer talking to Rahman, CEO and co-founder of Amplitude Studios, kind of waxing poetic and talking about the changes they want to make going forward. They've had a whole decade of experience making games since this, a lot of things to learn. And one thing that they're pushing, at least in this trailer and in the review, is the main mechanic of this new planet you're on, which is that it starts mostly flooded. And then as you are playing the game, the flood recedes and changes, revealing more and more land. Not only is it kind of a neat idea, but what it means is that initial delicious chocolate that is early game exploration in 4X games continues throughout the entire match. Because
That's
new
lovely.
areas, new creatures, relics, temples, all these things interact with, points of interest get revealed kind of procedurally and randomly. I don't know exactly how they do it. You can see a little bit of it in the trailer. So yeah, you can't just dominate early and snowball and then get bored for the second half of the match, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see more. I've heard back and forth that there isn't a release date or that it's releasing early access 2025. Amplitude has been doing EA almost before EA was a thing. Almost every single one of their games, I think, had some early access phase, and they normally go really well. I know Humankind didn't end up in a great spot, but I was there for a lot of their early access in their forums, and they do listen to their players and they do make changes. So that's exciting to hear. So yeah, between Civ 7 and this, I'm going to lose a lot of time this year.
Excellent. So kind of grabbing onto Josh's thoughts about Spider-Man and about Spider-Man and its performance. Some of it's guesswork, right? Like, we don't know how Spider-Man's going to do, but we can kind of infer based on the original PC port from the first game, the first PS5 game, that it's probably going to be pretty good. Because at the very least, I imagine it's going to have a similar performance.
Honestly, the first one ran really smooth. Now, albeit it had lesser system requirements because it was an
only just
older
barely.
game, but just barely.
Yeah, I mean, I think the minimum system requirements for that at the time were like a 1050 Ti. Now we're jumping up to a 1650. Okay, that doesn't scale too horribly. There is another game that just recently came to PC that I've been talking about quite a bit lately, and that is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, another port from PS5 to PC. Now, Square Enix isn't known necessarily for their quality ports. It usually takes a little bit of time before, and a little bit of work and some post-launch patches before it's running really smooth. I'm going to preface this with, I love this game. I'm having a blast playing it. However, I am not the only person that's having regular crashing issues, regular massive frame drops, weird frame pacing issues, severe frame dips at some points. Now, some of that is my fault, and I figured that out. I had Rebirth installed on what I find out is a failing NVMe drive. I've since put it on another drive, and some of the loading issues have gone away. However, I think it was last night, I was streaming some Rebirth and got 4 crashes during a 4-hour-long stream.
Ouch.
Yeah. Now, and Konahula, who's in chat right now, was there for the whole thing. That has been kind of my experience with the game so far, is I get a lot of soft locks. So when the game goes into something like one of the in-engine, in-game cutscenes, it just won't. So the game will essentially stop right there. I can still move around freely, but my camera's locked to a single position. It gets really weird. So I assumed that was because of the failed NVMe. It's not. I have it working on a great NVMe, and it's fantastic.
So, I mean, just watching here, while Ultra, the surrounding, the grass, the rock, you see a bug crawling across a crevice on a rock down there. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
But Cloud is jitterbugging across the thing. You can see it chug, especially when the combat was happening with the dragon there. You could see it chugging. That one
wasn't actually any kind of graphics chug. There's a little bit of wonkiness.
Yeah.
So the terrain is extremely detailed with lots and lots of geometry, like an immense amount of geometry. This is a hard game to run, and it's a very, very pretty game.
And that's honestly, to me, where I see, if again, to my, untrained eye here, the biggest graphic detail upgrades is not necessarily in the character but in the environmental graphics.
It's in all of it. I mean, they really did go all out, especially in making the overworld. So in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it's not like Remake, where it was like really super linear and you were essentially going through corridors. They masked it really well in Remake. It feels like a living, vibrant world in Remake. But in Rebirth, it elevates it to 11, right? It feels like a truly living world as you, because like you said, you can see bugs skittering. There's lizards skittering. There's enemies all over the place. There's birds. I mean, it looks like a real living, breathing world. And credit given to where credit's due. They nailed that. However, it is really taxing on hardware. There are people that even with the 4090, even with the Ryzen 7 9800X 3D that are having these LOD issues pop in, etc. So on top of graphical issues that people are having, there's regular crashes. And I don't have that much of a problem with graphics issues, especially since NVIDIA did not put out a game-ready driver for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because the launch of Rebirth was too close to their brand new graphics card launch. So they focused on that. They definitely, focused on that. So Rebirth has not gotten a game-ready driver yet. So there's probably going to be some graphical issues until that happens. My biggest disappointment is in the stability because I am not the only person having this issue. Reviews went from mostly positive to mixed, and they've kind of stayed there, and it might be going down even further because this is like a fairly universal issue.
It doesn't matter how good the game is if you can't play it.
Yeah, you can't
100%. Yeah. And it means that I have to save excessively, which takes away from my time playing the game.
And breaks immersion.
And I'm playing for an audience. Like I'm streaming the entirety of the game. So to have to take a pause to save just to make sure that this upcoming in-game cutscene doesn't crash my game, kind of annoying. So lots of soft lock issues. I've had, for the most part, every stream I've had multiple issues. Whether it be soft locking like I described or crash to desktop. I've had issues with the exception of one night, I've had issues on every night that I've streamed this game so far. I've even played it. I made another save so I could play it outside of streaming just to see if like the impact streaming has on my overhead is causing this issue. And it's not. It crashed for me without an audience. So it's pretty frustrating. Knowing especially the fact that I have a mid-tier system for this game. I should be able to play it on medium graphics. But the frame pacing and frame timing issues that I'm having, I have to drop it below what my graphics card is capable of doing. So like my GPU utilization should be peaked at 100% the whole time. But it's not. We're sitting in like 87%, and that's on top of using OBS. So I'm not getting what I could out of the hardware that I have. And that's a bit of a problem. Especially when people are reporting the same thing with cards that are like 2 generations newer than mine.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit frustrating. That said, the game is a lot of fun. Nick was in chat last night watching. I ended up playing an extra hour of the mini game in one of the mini games in Final Fantasy VII Queen's Blood. Great card game. I wish that there was a standalone version of it on mobile or something.
Free money, Sony.
Yeah.
Put that on Android and iPhone.
And it's only one of the several mini games that they have in Rebirth. Just this title. They have Fort Condor, an entire other massive mini game where you collect pieces that you can play with and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a ton of content and a ton of fun to be had. If I wasn't trying my best to keep the game from crashing and having to save all the time and verifying game files on the semi-regular, checking my graphic settings in NVIDIA control panel, it would be a phenomenal time. But as much as I love it, I can't recommend that you go out and buy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for the PC yet, at least until there's a stability patch or modders have taken care of what Square Enix doesn't, and at the very least until there is a game ready patch from NVIDIA. It's just not in the best of states at the moment.
Man, it's kind of disappointing though with Square Enix starting to come to PC that this launch didn't like the timing of it, and it's hard to, I don't know, like would it have been worth it to delay for a couple of months just to make sure the game ready patch was there from NVIDIA? I know it sucks to delay, but
Well, they're
You know,
capable of it,
exactly,
right?
you
Like
know.
Remake was a masterpiece of a port. It ran on everything. Even lower tier cards, really good at frames per second. You might have to turn down your settings a little bit, but it very capable.
And see, to have a sophomore launch right after that strong first showing,
Painful.
that sucks, because people were counting on a strong launch because of the first one, right? You know,
I mean, one of the problems could be Unreal Engine 4, like especially because they are having to develop technology so they can implement things like DLSS and stuff that isn't really meant for Unreal Engine 4 because they haven't made it to 5. That could be a lot of the problem. I mean, there might be some DirectX compatibility issues or something that's going on there that makes it that much harder to play on PC. But man, after Remake, Square Enix is not known for putting out a great port.
Sure,
they just aren't. But after Remake, I was really hoping that they'd kind of learn their lesson, and because of the commitment that they made to bringing to other consoles and other formats like the PC, at launch or near launch, I was really kind of hoping that they spent some quality time in QA with this, where it feels like it was rushed.
So it would, man, that honestly, that almost kind of makes it worth trying to buy the Spider-Man game tomorrow just to see how it runs for that comparison, because it's a newer game, right? Came out on
it is two different studios.
Two different studios, but both.
You're going to spend $60.
You're going to spend $60. Like, you want your port to work, so it would be interesting to see, because the first Spider-Man port, like butter. Like, I mean, play in Miles Morales, that one also smooth. So
by all reports, the Spider-Man games run great.
Yeah,
and
so
on a large swath of hardware.
So I understand it's two different studios, but if Nixxes, NIXXES,
Nixxes,
if they can do it, then I mean, I'm sure Square Enix is capable of matching them on their ports, right? Like, what is I don't know, man.
They have the money and the manpower.
Exactly, that's what I mean. If this kind of like
or do it third party. I mean, if you're just incapable, have
these guys do it. They're doing a great job.
Right? Yeah, have
like
Sony
money?
Santa Monica do it. Well, yeah, man.
Sony Santa Monica do it.
Yeah, for sure. We got one more game to talk about, and then we got voicemails.
Ooh. We do. Just real quick, because I was able to play it a little bit. I was looking for a game the other day that I could play with a couple of friends of mine and their daughter. And I was looking at, $2, $3, $5 games. There's Oh Deer, which is kind of like a prop hunt, but some people are deer, one person's a hunter, and you get to pretend to be a deer. Look neat. But we ended up picking up Murky Divers, which in my experience, about the hour I got to play it, is like a little more refined take on Lethal Company, except it's underwater. So everything is that much more terrifying. I have had it installed for like close to a month now, and I've wanted to launch it up just to try it out, but I wanted to go in blind, which was the best thing. So like Lethal Company, this one I think actually can play up to 8 people at once. And depending on the amount of people, you start in a submarine that changes. There's a 1-2 person sub, 3 to 5, and 6 to 8 or 6 to 10. And you have no idea what the hell you're doing. You're swimming around. Then you find out, there's like a sonar, so you can see like blips around you. And then there's a machine to like figure out what those blips do. And there's a steering and a power. So immediately you're thrown into chaos as 4 different people try to figure out how to steer the submarine. And the very first thing that happened is I'm looking on the radar, there's like these yellow dots with letters and numbers, and then a big question mark. It's like, let's go to the question mark. So we eventually figure out how to get the question mark. We get out, and a massive gargantuan cursed laser whale showed up and killed all of us, which was fantastic. After restarting there, we did manage to do a dive, and you run in, you kind of grab stuff like Lethal Company, all kinds of little critters and whatnot. I was pushing around with Zach a shopping cart underwater to store all the body parts we were finding to sell for money later so we could buy stuff out of a vending machine. It was a hoot, and I think the game is $5 or $6. So if you like Lethal Company or those style of games, you want to find something to play with everybody. I think this one went a little under the radar. I didn't hear too much about it.
Yeah, me either.
It's going to be $20, $25 for 4 copies of the game. And yeah, it ran great I played on the Steam Deck. One of them played on a laptop, one of them played on a computer, or two on a computer. We did have problems with one of the computers, a bunch of weird rubber banding. Turned out to likely be a latency thing. We ended up having them host and it fixed it. And then we got to play for about an hour before there was a crash. The game just went out into 1.0, so it's clearly been out in EA for a little while. So hopefully that stuff gets fixed. None of the other machines had any problems with it. It's not a game that requires a lot of system requirements.
Yeah, it looks pretty similar to Lethal
very
Company.
Lethal Company coded. Yeah, I like the concept of Lethal Company. I didn't like the execution of it, other than playing it for a night or two. This one seems to have more things to do, a little more progression, more unique things to find. Yeah, I just enjoyed it. So that was Murky Divers. If you're into those kind of games, check it out.
Awesome. Well, before we go, I previewed this voicemail. We've got a voicemail from Hyphy Saiyan, one of our listeners, viewers, friend of the show.
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod. So, yeah, let's take a listen, huh?
Oh, he just farted into the microphone.
That's
the whole.
That's number Wang.
Oh, there it is again.
Okay, hold on. Let's reload.
While he's fixing that, it would be like some of our...
Hey, you beautiful gaming people. This is John. I want to stop by and say how much I'm enjoying the podcast. And think that the intros have been amazing. I think that Josh has some of the best lines of all time, and waiting for him to post his Kaiju Tramp stamp online for all of us to see. I had a question to see if you guys would talk about AI being implemented not just into like software and computers and stuff, but into the actual games themselves, like as far as like NPCs and their dialogues and how they can maybe change the dynamics of characters going forward and make games endlessly playable, and what the future of that looks like. And you guys probably have a lot more to say about that. Just thought I would give that as a topic. Anyways, enjoying the show and can't wait to hear from you. Bye.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, thanks, Hyphy Saiyan.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
Sure. I always love to get voicemails.
Yeah. No, it's a great topic. That could easily be a couple podcasts.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, I would happily talk about that next cast if we have no major news, or splitting it up.
Just devoting a little bit of the show to it next time. I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a big topic, right?
It is.
Because there's a lot of ins and outs of it. It changes every part of the development scene, of gameplay. Like it touches every part.
It really does. It's touching every part of our society at the moment,
for sure.
from the algorithms on our phones to gas pumps to whatever, to lights at the, it's all being handled by that. The human factor is almost completely in a lot of cases.
And it raises a lot of opportunities. Like we haven't thought of all the ways we can implement AI. There's even a chance that we can use AI to implement AI, right? So they're
recursive.
Yeah.
Multiplicity.
There's so many implications.
If you say something like that again, a time bubble is going to rip open here, and something bad. Yeah,
I'll get shot by a gun that shoots typewriters.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. We'll cover any major news next podcast and spend the back half talking about AI in games. I promise you, I was talking to Josh today about Marvel Rivals. It's already in games. Mm-hmm. A lot of games you wouldn't expect, and in ways you wouldn't expect. So yeah, interesting topic. I like it.
Yeah. For one, it automatically gives you the finger.